Hey everybody, welcome to the Bean Talk. I'm A-Lad,
I'm winning.
and this is a new channel. We're starting it as huge sports fans, namely football fans. So a big problem we're seeing today in sports is, especially sports broadcasting and sports talk shows, is that there's a lot of politics surrounding it. There's a lot of BS that's talked about on networks like ESPN, for instance. I know they're losing a huge part of their fan base because they are getting too much into politics, and that's not what we want to hear. Along with that is we're just getting terrible reporting. Don't want to name any names, but there's people on NFL.com, the NFL Network, that honestly don't know how they have jobs. These guys say they were scouts before and sports writers for 10, 20 years, but I honestly don't know where they get some of the things they talk about. It's just really inaccurate, and I don't think it's a fair representation of what actually happens. People tend to go around the facts and get, I feel like, emotionally attached to certain topics, and then they don't give you the correct information. And so the main reason Lenine and I are starting this channel is that we want to give a fair representation of the sports world, especially football, NFL, and college, to the fans that actually know what they're talking about and actually respect it for what it is, and that's a sport. No politics, just raw facts. What you see is what you get, and that's what we talk about. We will do in-depth analyses of certain topics, certain teams. In the future, we will be breaking down some film, talking to you guys about that. But real quickly, just want to give you all a brief background on us. So, like I said, I'm A-Lad. Right now, currently in the business of entrepreneurship. Huge football fan. I'm a Patriots fan, so yeah, you guys can laugh at that, whatever, bandwagon, hoorah, whatever. But I'm also a Louisville Cardinals fan, so you guys can laugh at that as well with all our suspensions going on and the death penalty we're getting in basketball. But as as you might have already figured out, just a hardcore football fan. That's what I'm all about. That's what I'm passionate about. NFL, college, you name it. That's what I love to talk about. I did play college football at a small Division III school, Center College. It's in Danville, Kentucky. It's not necessarily coming from just a Joe Schmo on the street who doesn't know what he's talking about. Had a lot of experience in the sport, especially from a behind the scenes analytical standpoint. I know what I'm talking about all the time watching that stuff. So it's not just some random guy coming in and telling you guys what you need to know about football. So, Lennon, you want to talk a little bit about yourself, man?
Yes. So, also just graduated college, same school. We play together. Um, we were roommates for 2 years too. I'm from Atlanta. I am a Falcons fan. And yes, we watched the Super Bowl together. And yes, it was the worst experience of my life so far. And I'm also an Oregon Ducks fan. And I know a lot of people probably think that's really random. Have a guy from Atlanta be an Oregon Ducks fan and probably call me bandwagon. But no, I have family out there. My uncle went there. Oregon's probably my favorite place in the world. I love going out there all the time. Um, Also, like Aladdin, I love football so much. Like, that is by far my favorite sport. He likes NFL more than he likes college. I actually like college more than I like NFL. But being back around him for the last 4 years got me more into the NFL, and been paying attention to that more than I ever have. But I mean, I still know football. I'd still watch every game of the Falcons, and this is something I have lived for all my life. And we know what we're talking about. We played it for in college, high school, as long as we could. We watch it, and we're just tired. I mean, we're tired of all the politics, especially around the Kaepernick situation. We'll talk about that a little bit, but that's probably something we're not really going to touch much because I think it's pretty cut and dry. I know I personally don't like ESPN anymore. I really rarely watch it. I only watch it for Pardon the Interruption. That's the only show I think that's good anymore on that channel. It's controlled by Disney. Disney owns it. That tells you everything you need to know. They're going to definitely be political whenever they can. I live on Bleacher Report. That is my favorite app. I think they do a pretty good job covering college football, especially with recruiting. Like Michael Felder, he knows what he's talking about. He was the one who predicted Ed Oliver to be an absolute stud last year, and lo and behold, he's probably one of the 5 or 10 best players in college football last year as a true freshman at Houston. But the NFL, Chris Sims is just not the best. Neither the other guys covering that, and the only news sports outlet I really trust, I respect anymore is FS1. Now, I like how they cover it. They're no BS. They're all no politics. They're just talking about sports, talking about analyzing the games. Now, they're not very good at it right now. Just saw one of their people's playoff predictions for this year, and it was pretty bad in my opinion. And yeah, so but they have the right idea, and we're doing some of that, but we're going to have much better analyzing football and analyzing what's happening and such. So yeah, I think if we're ready to go ahead and jump into that first topic. You ready, lad?
Yeah, I'm ready, Lennon. That was a really good job covering that stuff. So let's hop right into it. So the whole Kaepernick situation, that's just been a roller coaster. Honestly, I know a lot of you guys are probably sick and tired of hearing about it, but at this point, I feel like it's pretty black and white, no pun intended. If you watch the guy for the past couple of years, you know the reason why no team is offering him a big-time contract as much, and he's demanding a whole lot of money, which I don't think he deserves. I know, he made a Super Bowl appearance before, and he had that, it kind of hurt Connor. He made that big comeback in the NFC Championship against Connor's Falcons, but that being said, the past 2 years he has just not been performing. I don't know whether he's just, mentally not there. Everyone knows that he's never been much of a passer. He's always been a threat because of his ability to run like a freaking gazelle down the field. But the main reason why he's not getting a contract, and I know Lennon would agree with me, is that he's just not good. And with the circus surrounding him right now, why would a team want to put up with that?
Yeah, he's not a pocket passer. The only time he experienced real success was running the pistol read option, which of read options, pistol read option is the absolute hardest to defend because unlike the other ones, shotgun, which way the read option is going based on what side the back is lying. You can't run it either way. Out of pistol, you can run it either way, and it's much more downhill. And that's what they ran, and they ran it to insane success. We all remember that game he had against Green Bay where ran for like 170 yards.
Yep.
It was just the scheme. He's a crazy athlete, but he can't really throw the ball. I know a lot of people will probably point to last year where he had 16 to 4 touchdown interception ratio, but that was Chip Kelly's offense. And I know, watching Chip Kelly at Oregon, that's what his offense does. You'll have the worst quarterback out there, but the touchdown interception ratio is insane because he can scheme receivers open all day long, and it's all about the play action, sending up the run, and then hitting that play action. We all remember Nick Foles. He had that crazy year under Chip Kelly, and he was 27-2. That was his touchdown interception ratio, 27-2. And I don't think anyone thinks Nick Foles was a great passer. So, it's not really – no one's willing to put up with his circus just for a backup. No one wants to answer questions about their backup every day long and how he's doing with the team, how he fits in the locker room. It's like, no, what about the starter? That's the one that matters, not the backup.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would totally agree with you there. And, another thing I think about is, teammates in locker rooms in the NFL, they're very loyal. Like, someone's on your team, you're gonna back them up, you're gonna defend them, you're gonna put up with whatever. If you truly believe in the guy. But tell me what you think, Lennon. Do you think having Kaepernick in some locker rooms would potentially divide the locker room and create some isolation, create some tension in the locker room, maybe that would affect the team negatively?
No, I don't think it's any issue in the locker room. I think most of the players are behind him. I mean, we saw a lot of other players also start down, take a knee at with him during the national anthem on his team and other teams. All those players still have jobs. The difference is Kaepernick had the media circus falling around him, and he was not as productive as these other guys. Eric Reid is a pretty good player. He still has a job. Brandon Marshall, very good player, still has a job, linebacker for the Broncos. These are other guys who did it. And, I mean, you don't see anyone saying anything because they're willing to put up. The NFL is all about what can you do for me? If you can't do anything for me on the field, they're not going to put up with you the slightest. But if you can perform for them, they'll put up with you all day long. I mean, Michael Irvin had his off-the-field escapades, and, I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, Cowboys wouldn't have traded him for anything. I mean, that's just how it is. I went to the Falcons 49ers game this year. The real people talking about the owners blackballing. I mean, the real issue is that a lot of the fans just don't like it. I remember when he took a knee, so many people started booing him at the Falcons game. So it's not the owners. It's the owners feeling what the fans are telling them. Fans are telling them, we don't want him on our team. And they're not going to put up, because one, the fans are like, he's not very good. And we just don't want to deal with that circus. And the owners don't want to get that feedback from their fans, because it is a business and fans are the customers. So,
yeah. So at the end of the day, the owners have to tailor to the wants and desires of the fans. It's a great point. A lot of people came out and were pretty infuriated, apparently, when a few days ago, actually, Jay Cutler signed with the Miami Dolphins, and people came out saying that, oh, like, we're so done with NFL owners and the NFL, like, we can't be Dolphins fans, like, how could you hire this guy, Jay Cutler, as we know, is very lackadaisical, nonchalant, doesn't really seem like he has much motivation in the game anymore. Like, how could they hire him instead of Kaepernick? And, like, who's the coach for the Miami Dolphins? Adam Gase. He used to actually coach Jay Cutler. So, I mean, it's why take a chance on someone like Kaepernick where you got to deal with all the BS outside the field when you get a guy that you've coached before and would fit in pretty well in your scheme, although, yeah, he's not what he used to be. Still got a big arm, can still fit in well, adjust better than I believe Kaepernick would. What are your thoughts on that, Lenny?
Yeah. I mean, this is Cutler had by far his best year under Adam Gase, and considering what time of the season it is where they still think they can compete, and they still they think they have a good enough roster. They have Jay, they have good wide receivers, pretty solid offensive line. This is a team that could definitely make the playoffs, and Cutler, with his familiarity with Adam Gase, is a much better fit in that offense than Kaepernick. And this is the only time I'll hopefully talk about politics. This is that of all 32 teams in the NFL, this was the one that he couldn't play for because of political issues. I mean, he went last year when they played Miami in Miami. He arrived to the stadium with a Fidel Castro shirt. I mean, you can't wear a Fidel Castro shirt in Miami with that massive Cuban population they have there.
Yeah.
That's just, I mean, that's the one situation where, like, this could not be done. This is the one team in the NFL he could not play for, truly, for political reasons. But, I mean, even beyond that, Jay Cutler is the more logical football choice than Kaepernick.
Right, exactly. And that's what I feel like a lot of people don't realize.
Mm-hmm.
But, all right, enough about Kaepernick. Let's move on. So, another guy who's been in the media spotlight a lot, especially in his first year in the NFL. Ezekiel Elliott had a great rookie season, absolutely tore it out for the Cowboys. Him and Dak are obviously the rookies of the year. But now he's been handed a 6-game suspension for domestic violence. You want to go into a little bit of that, Lennon?
Yeah, that's big news. I mean, obviously he was an All-Pro back. He's already, man, I'd probably say he's the third best back in the NFL already, behind Le'Veon and David Johnson. And he's a workhorse, very good player, without a doubt. He just can't make a good decision to save his life, and this is going to hurt them. I mean, their first 6 games are not the easiest in the world. They got one definite pushover, most likely in the 49ers. They don't really have a quarterback, but Kyle Shanahan, I mean, he is a pretty good offensive coordinator, so who knows what he'll do. I mean, this is not good timing. We'll see what happens with the whole appeal process, if he's actually able to play due to an appeal. If I were him, I don't know if he'll win the appeal, so I would probably sit out early in the season versus later. What happens if that appeal kicks in? I mean, the suspension kicks in in the last 4 weeks, and that means he misses 2 playoff games. I think that is just. I think he should swallow his pride, take the suspension now, early in the season, versus later in the season when it could be a much bigger issue.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, he's got some maturing to do. I mean, I feel like, being that young, being in the spotlight, having the success he has, his judgment is a little clouded at times. But that being said, say he has to miss the first 6 games of the season. I mean, there's 3 potential playoff teams in that mix. So they got the Giants week 1. That would be a huge loss if Ezekiel has to sit that one out.
I think even with Zeke, there's a real chance they lose that game because the Giants with Damon Harrison, they're the one team that can really consistently stop that run, the run game, and that's what the entire Cowboys, not just offense team, is based around. I mean, they don't have the most talented defense in the world. They're based around their offense staying on the field all day long. If they can't do that, that exposes the defense more. So I do think that is a loss without Zeke, without a definite loss with him. I'd still probably say that's a loss week 1. What about you?
I mean, it's tough to say because we saw how much trouble the Giants did. I mean, the Giants arguably were the toughest opponent for the Cowboys last season. You would agree, right?
Mm-hmm, without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw they lost the week 1 game last year. And then they also, I believe the Giants beat them the second time as well.
Yeah, Giants were 2-0 against them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last year.
Yeah, and, because they were able to take away that running game, they were forcing Dak Prescott to step up and, kind of put the game on his shoulders. And we saw that he wasn't really able to yet. He's still young, he's still developing, he has time. But I don't know. I feel like this year might be different. I feel like with Ezekiel Elliott, I don't know. I like that Cowboys team, but without him, I mean, they did get Alfred Morris now, who's a proven back. He had a few really good years for the Redskins. So
they also got Darren McFadden too.
Exactly. I mean, so that they're deep in the running back position, so they could still run the ball. But I think the question in those games are going to be, if the run game is slowed down, when it's slowed down, can Dak step up and make some plays? Obviously, Giants have one of the best secondaries in the NFL with Jenkins, Apple, Collins. Those guys are ballers. They showed it last year. Jenkins,
DRC too.
DRC too, exactly. I mean, Jenkins had Dez in his pocket last season. He couldn't do anything. He had trouble getting off the line, and so I feel like those things being said, I mean, it's a very interesting matchup. I mean, that's probably what the battle for the NFC East is going to come down to, are those 2 teams.
I wouldn't sleep on the Redskins. I think the Redskins are going to be quite good this year, especially with that offense. But I think another aspect of this, the one weakness, the glaring weakness of the Giants is the O-line. The O-line is not good, and I think they'll make the playoffs, but I don't think they'll make a run in the playoffs because once they get to the playoffs, that O line is going to get exposed against much better pass rushes, and they won't be able to run the ball. But the Cowboys won't be able to take advantage of that because along with Zeke being suspended, David Irving is going to be suspended. He was one of their best defensive linemen last year. He's going to be gone, and they're not going to be able to take advantage of that porous offensive line. But also the addition of Brandon Marshall, I think, is huge because the Cowboys will possibly be starting 2 rookies at corner. I'm including nickel. I mean, Jordan Lewis and Chidobe Awuzie, matching up against Odell Beckham and Brandon Marshall. That's not a favorable matchup week 1 for some rookies. So I think that compounded on Zeke being gone, and I mean, like you said, they still will be able to run the ball without Zeke. Against the Giants, though, that's without Zeke. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball. Against every other team, they'll be able to, but I don't know about against the Giants without Zeke. So I just think the defense will have to be on the field more, and that's just more chances to put these rookie corners up against one of the best 1-2 receiver combinations in the NFL. So it's just, and not to mention Evan Ingram, who can line up as receiver because he ran a 4.40. I mean, that guy can fly. So
yeah, don't sleep on Sterling Shepard either. He had a really good year.
He's out for the year.
He's out for the year?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's out for the year.
I thought he just had an ankle sprain. What's the latest on him?
Let's look that up real quick. Oh, no, you're right. Never mind.
Yeah, I thought I was reading about that because I really like Shepard. I think he had a really good season. Obviously, he's always overlooked by Odell, but now with Brandon Marshall there, I feel sorry for whoever has to line up in the slot against that guy because he is good.
Yeah, they definitely don't have the matchups are definitely in the Giants' favor, without a doubt.
Yeah. So let's just move on just real quickly. So week 1, we're gonna give the Cowboys an L, especially without Zeke. Week 2 at Denver at Mile High Stadium.
That's going to be a tough one too. That's another team. Their run game isn't as good, but if they're more reliant on Dak throwing the ball, I mean, Von Miller's just going to pin his ears back all day long. Yeah. This is a definite possible loss for them.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that one's a loss. I mean, the Broncos give everyone fits at home. That defense just steps it up. The only team that really gave them trouble, right? The only team that gave them trouble last season at Denver was Atlanta. Obviously, they had the best offense we've seen in many years. But, I mean, we see teams like New England going in there, and they couldn't do anything. I mean, they got the win. They grinded it out, running the ball and just playing sound defense. But I feel like Dak's still young. That secondary is going to lock those receivers down. And then, like you said, Von Miller is going to pin his ears back and go. Like, both those guys are going to have hell of a day there.
Yeah, and, I mean, Aqib Talib is the perfect corner to match up with Dez. Dez is a big physical receiver. You need a big physical corner, and, I mean, Talib is in my opinion, the best man-to-man physical corner in the league, even better Richard Sherman. So I think he could definitely neutralize Dez Bryant for much of the game. So I would agree with you. My only concern about the Broncos, I think their O-line definitely got improved. If Jamal Charles can stay healthy, that is great, is quarterback play. I don't know who they're going with. I think Trevor Siemian played pretty well last year, considering all things. But I think Paxton Lynch definitely has some developing to do, and I know some are already worried that he may have been a bust, but too early to tell considering he has no real NFL reps. But I do think that is my one concern. But again, that the Cowboys defense lost so much this year. Lost Brandon Carr, lost Horace Claiborne, lost J.J. Wilcox. It's David Irving's going to be gone for the first 4 games. It's not. I would be with you. I'd be comfortable running that up as a loss week 2. So starting off 0-2.
And then you got to go to Arizona, which is always a tough place to play. Obviously, the Cardinals They had a great 2015. They made an NFC Championship. They got walloped by the Panthers, but we had high expectations for them coming into last year. I mean, they had some of the best weapons on offense, some flyers, J.J. Nelson, John Brown, those guys. But
Mhm.
for whatever reason, they just couldn't put it together, and the defense wasn't as good as we anticipated. So they had a down year, but I feel like coming back this year, I mean, Cowboys going to Arizona. What do you think about that one? I'm not so sure about that one either because the only thing is I'm not sure which Arizona Cardinals team is going to show up.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona lost so many close games last year, and
Yes.
that defined their season. I mean, really, they were a kicker a kicker away from possibly making the playoffs. That is a tough one. Like David Johnson, hopefully he's healthy and 100% by the for that game. He does. That's huge for them. That's one. But they did lose a lot on the defense. They lost Tony Jefferson. They lost Calais Campbell. Um, this one is the biggest toss up I think for the first 6 games.
All right, so let's just play in the Cowboys' favor, and we'll give them the W because we know America
Mm-hmm.
loves the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Then week 4 against the Rams, I'm sure that's a win there, right?
Yeah, I mean that's it's something the Rams could be improved. I think Jared Goff he looks scared out there playing, so I don't think that is I do not think the Rams are going to be much of a contender this year. So I do think that'll be a win. So 2-2 through the first 4 weeks. Now they get David Irvin back.
Yep.
And
then
up to Green Bay.
It's actually going to be at home for the Cowboys, but there's going to be a rematch of that scintillating game last season. Aaron Rodgers, Jared Cook, crushing the hearts of Cowboys fans all across the nation. What do you think about that one? That's an interesting matchup.
That is, I know a lot of people think the Packers are going to be the best team in the NFC this year. I'm not as high on them. Over the last 2 years, they've lost the entirety of the interior offensive line. T.J. Land, Josh Sidden, and Corey Linsley have all left. So I think that is huge. Defense still, they don't have much in the way of cornerbacks. But I do think, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is the best player in the NFL. I think, without a doubt. That man's a miracle worker, as we saw last year against the Cowboys. I think that I like Green Bay in that game without Zeke, without more opportunity for Aaron Rodgers to be on the field. The one thing the Packers defense is good at is stopping the run, thanks to big Mike Daniels down there on the D line. That's one I would give to the Packers. What about you?
Yeah, I was going to say, and you touched on it, without Ezekiel Elliott there, I think it's going to give Aaron Rodgers a lot more time on the field because, the best way to defeat the great quarterbacks, the Tom Brady's, the Aaron Rodgers, the Peyton Mannings, was to keep them off the field, right? And so without Zeke, setting the pace there, I mean, maybe Alfred Moore steps in and he balls out better than we anticipate, but, with Zeke, we know what we're getting, and even as good as the run defense is for the Packers, their front seven is one of the best in the NFC. I still think Zeke would, have a great day and at least get him, convert the 2nd and 5s, the 3rd and 3s to keep them on the field, keep Rodgers off the field. I mean, we saw the Cowboys got off to a really slow start against the Packers last season in that NFC divisional game, but Dak started to become more comfortable, and the game was kind of on his shoulders at that point. He started connecting with Beasley and Bryant, and he started to really get some rhythm going. And so I feel like he'll be confident that he can get off to a quicker start this year. And so I think they correct me if I'm wrong, they went down like 21-3 or 17-3, something like that, out of the gates. And so they were playing from behind the whole game.
Yeah, there was a big comeback for the Cowboys to get that as close as it was.
Exactly.
And I mean, a big concern I always have with the Packers is they always start slow in the year. They never get off to the hot start people expect them, and they turn it on at the end of the year after Aaron Rodgers has his little radio call with the fans, telling them to relax.
Right. But
But I
I'm
think this is one for
yeah,
Green Bay.
yeah, I'm with you. I was gonna say, I just think without Zeke there to really punish the Packers front seven and really extend that game for the Cowboys, you know, I mean, you're dealing with the bad man that's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's gonna pay. He's gonna make you pay for that, and so I'm gonna give that one to the Packers as well. Then they got the bye week, and then the last game of Zeke's suspension would be the 49ers, and I think that's an easy win for the Cowboys. You would agree, right?
Yeah, I agree. 49ers, I do think they'll be improved, but they don't really have a quarterback right now. Brian Hoyer's not exactly the guy of the future. And I think it's in the 49ers' best interest to tank this year, get up to the top three and get either Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, or Josh Allen in the draft.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think 3-3 coming out with Zeke. Oh man, I think they may even come out at 3-3 as well. So
I'd say with Zeke, they at least come out 4-2. I think the
yeah,
biggest difference
I would
makes is
agree.
the Packers.
But they have another stretch where they could very conceivably lose the next 3 games in this stretch too. And even with Zeke, I think the first game back they'd win because Zeke can be a little frustrated, has something to prove. But the next 2 games, the Chiefs and the Falcons, that is a tough 3-game stretch right there.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I'd agree. Zeke, he's really got to get his mental game strong.
Yeah.
Like he's got to cut all that BS out and just focus. I mean, he's got all the talent to become a Hall of Famer one day, but is he willing to sacrifice all the outside stuff to do it?
He's got all the talent. He's got all the help around him. Playing behind the best offensive line. I mean, at least since 20 years ago, the Cowboys in their run. So I mean, everything is in the right situation for him. He's just gotta start making better decisions, man. I mean, these are just absolutely terrible decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to probably the biggest news this offseason yet. Roberto Aguayo cut by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What's up with that?
Bucks just making Bucks moves, man. Man, that is bad. I mean, he's the highest player from that draft so far to be cut. I mean, be waived. It was just, man, that is being one of the worst picks they've had in years, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean that's what they get for picking a kicker in the second round. I mean, come on, like second round, there you just go get yourself work on that O line. Protect Jameis. Like that's your future. If you don't protect him, like it doesn't matter.
And I think it is interesting though. I mean, they're doing parallels and stats to the last kicker Sebastian Janikowski when he was picked in the first round. After his first year, he was at 68% field goal percent, and I mean, we all know how good of a kicker he's turned out to be. While Roberto Aguayo was at 70, and that was kind of interesting. I'm like, maybe it was just like first year jitters, but I do think the pressure of the media kind of got to the Buccaneers because the whole media had been telling them how bad of a pick this was, how stupid they were for making it. So I wonder if that kind of got to them a bit and made them make this decision so soon. But man, it was. But still, you should never take a kicker that high.
Absolutely. But that's what the Buccaneers do, right?
Yep.
All right, so the last thing we'll touch on today, guys, is the first real big kind of blockbuster trade of the offseason in my eyes. So we had a 3-way trade between the Bills, the Rams, and the Eagles. Now this one's interesting. We had the Eagles finally address their needs in the secondary, and they got Ronald Darby, who I'm very high on. I know Lennon is as well. So they addressed a huge need there. And then you got the Bills send Watkins to the Rams, and the Rams also got a sixth round pick for next year's draft out of that. And
No,
that thing,
Rams got a yeah, yeah, 6th round pick. Yeah, never
and
mind.
then yeah,
Confused.
no worries. And then the Bills picked up Jordan Matthews from the Eagles, and I think with Alshon Jeffrey there now, I think that was kind of a reasonable move to address the secondary. And then the Bills also pick up EJ Gaines from the Rams, who's a proven corner. He's a very good player in my eyes. Still a lot of room for improvement, but I think with the Bills losing Gilmore and obviously now shipping out Darby, they needed a replacement. So EJ Gaines, I think, slots in very well. And they picked up a third-round pick for next year as well. And don't forget, they did draft Tre'Davious White out of LSU, who's apparently doing pretty well in camp. And so, what do you think are the big winners of this trade, Lennon?
Uh, so I think the so it's actually was not a real 3-team trade, but the Bills never would have made both deals without either one of the deals without the other deal. So it's
Right.
like a pseudo three-way trade. I think the Bills definitely won the Sammy Watkins trade. I'm not as high on Sammy Watkins as I know almost everyone else is. I thought in college all he really ever did was run screens, slants, short routes, verts, not really any sophisticated routes, just used his speed to run by people and collect run after catch, which run after catch is extremely valuable, but I didn't think he had a very developed concept of route running and how to get space and coverage from the defender. They also got a 2nd-round pick from the Rams, which could be a pretty high 2nd-round pick. So I thought they definitely won that one. But I think it's weird. I think the Eagles probably won the other trade. I like Ronald Darby. They definitely needed cornerback help. Nolan Carroll's not the best. Although he's in Dallas now, never mind. But they did draft Sidney Jones, who I was very high on. I thought he was quite possibly the best corner in the draft, but then he had that terrible Achilles injury leading up to the draft and dropped him down. So I think in a year that can be a huge steal. But I do like Ronald Darby. It's interesting. They really don't have much receiver help up in Buffalo, so it's interesting getting rid of Sammy Watkins. And I mean, the first thing I thought when I saw this trade was this is a very baseball trade. This is something you see in baseball all the time at trade deadline when contracts are about to expire. You see teams who aren't going to compete this year dump off contracts of the best players and get return on it versus losing them in free agency. I do think. I wonder if the Bills thought come at the next summer when Sammy Watkins was a free agent, they wouldn't be able to re-sign him, or they didn't want to re-sign him. So they were just trying to get any kind of return on him. And I think they got an extremely good return. A 2nd-round draft pick, probably a high 2nd-round draft pick by itself, I think would have been almost enough to trade Sammy Watkins, but then also getting EJ Gaines on top of that. I think that was a very good move by Buffalo. And I think they're just going full rebuild mode.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. I think the Eagles really came out strong. They got Ronald Darby. I'm really high on him. Very quick, can run with anyone in the NFL. You're not going to run the guy, so that's really important for them. The Bills, I think, I'm a Patriots fan, so I love it when Bills do stupid things, but this is probably one of the smartest things they've done in a while because, like you said, Watkins is in a contract year. His big problem is his foot. He keeps injuring that foot and that ankle, and how would he be able to hold up? How much longer would he have? And so I think it's smart on their part to say, hey, let's see if we can get any value for him while, he's still kind of healthy, he's still, improving. Obviously, his speed is one of the best in the NFL for those, for an X or a Z, but honestly, with the Rams in this trade, I mean, they get a sixth round pick, which you can get like a Julian Edelman or something maybe, but
Hmm.
with Watkins, I think they're taking a big risk. They didn't
Yeah.
really address their need for skill players and playmakers, and so I think they're just kind of reaching out and just it's kind of a stretch for them. They're saying that, all right, the Bills want to give this guy up. Like, let's take a chance on him, even though we know he's
Hmm.
got a history of injuries. They
Hmm.
did go out and get Robert Woods. I know they drafted Cooper Kupp, which are great additions, but they still honestly don't really have like a true number one receiver. I mean, you
Hmm.
got Tavon in the slot. Obviously, we know what he's capable of when he's producing. So I think they just really reached out and they're trying to get a playmaker, and we're willing to take the risk. I mean, they probably know that this still isn't going to be the year they come out and do well because Goff is still developing, and to be honest, I'm not quite sure what to expect from him. Like you said, he's like a deer in headlights when he's on the field.
Hmm.
So I still think they're rebuilding for some time to come, but they wanted to take the risk on Watkins and see, hey, if he does stay healthy, he is gonna be a great addition to the offense. He'll give them a vertical threat. So
Yeah, this is. See, I think this is almost something they. To me, this is a trade you make when you think you're like a few pieces away.
yeah,
So this is to me very interesting because I think they're a lot of pieces away. I mean, they got to resign Aaron Donald first and foremost. They can't lose him. They lose him.
oh, they're
I mean,
screwed.
their defense is going to take a huge slide. Which is the one thing that's been keeping them even somewhat competitive over the last couple of years is their defense. But I think they're definitely hoping Sammy Watkins turns into a number one. But then they'll have to re-sign him come this summer, and it's real interesting this situation. Do you re-sign him now when he's definitely going to be cheaper, and or do you wait until the summer, which if he stays healthy and performs, then he's going to be able to increase his asking price and say, "Look, I've just been hurt, but I really am what I was drafted as, this top end number one receiver." Um, but it's a big question, a big risk, and I don't really think they should be thinking about signing anyone other than Aaron Donald right now. So I think this is the very questionable to me what they're why they made such a trade.
I'd agree with you. And then you got the other side of that with the Bills picking up Jordan Matthews now and EJ Gaines. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
they needed to get another corner in there, especially if they're giving up Darby. They had to get someone in there, and I think
Mm-hmm.
EJ Gaines is just as. I mean, I feel like it's like the same tier kind of player. I think you'd agree. Um, I do.
I think right now, yeah, but I do think
Darby's
Darby
got
has
more
much more
upside.
upside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and so I like with Watkins gone now, the Bills roster is a little interesting. I know with their receiving cores, they were never that good, but I know they picked up Anquan Bolden a few days ago. And besides that, I mean, honestly, I think did they pick up Philly Brown maybe from the Panthers? I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
They did.
really, besides that, I mean, they
And they
really
got
don't
Zay
have.
Jones too.
Oh, that guy's
I
Zay
think I
Jones
like
from
Zay
East
Jones,
Carolina. He's a good player,
but
but like I said, he's not proven anything yet. So I'm just saying
yeah.
from what we've seen, their receiving core is still shaky. Jordan Matthews, he had a couple decent years with the Eagles. Obviously, they had some quarterback trouble and adjusting to new head coach and everything. So I'm interested to see how Jordan Matthews actually slots in because we know the Bills aren't much of a passing team. They're downhill running.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrod Taylor, LaShawn McCoy, those guys. But like how is Jordan Matthews gonna fit in because he doesn't have the speed that Watkins had. So like how is he gonna fit in?
Yeah, he's definitely one thing Jordan Matthews has proven is he's not a number one receiver, and it is very interesting because it does seem he's been brought in to be the number one receiver
Right.
for Buffalo. So that is interesting. It's also interesting that Buffalo has lost its top three corners from this year. Stephon Gilmore is, of course, with your Patriots. Nikel Roby-Coleman is down with the Rams, and now they shipped off Darby to Philly. So this is, I mean, we'll see an entirely new secondary. Tre'Davious White's been doing really well, as we've heard, but he is he's a slot guy. He's not really big enough to play on the outside or has that high end long speed, but is extremely quick.
Right.
But so he's going to be a slot guy. I guess EJ Gaines can be on the outside, and right now I think they're definitely fighting for that other outside position at corner. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. And this is kind of the philosophy they have. I mean, you got Sean McDermott as their new head coach, coming over from Panthers, and we know the Panthers, they thought they could really put almost anywhere in anyone in the secondary. They didn't really need the top end guy, which is why they let Josh Norman walk. So this is probably more to that philosophy that it's the scheme, not really the player.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, especially in the AFC East, where you have, I mean, 3 teams in that division. I mean, I don't think the Bills are going to catch them. Patriots, obviously, they're going to sweep that division up again. That's not really a question.
Yeah.
But then you got the Dolphins, and Bills are kind of in the middle. The Dolphins obviously had a pretty good year last year, so I feel like the Bills are trying to, like, catch up to them, and now they see with Tannehill going down, I feel like they were kind of like, hey, we got to take this opportunity because this could be the year we actually sneak in as a wild card. Obviously, we know the Jets aren't going to do anything. They have arguably the worst roster in the NFL, which
there's no arguably about it.
it's
they definitely have the worst roster.
Sorry for you Jets fans.
They are in 100% tank mode for the next couple of years.
I know to you Jets fans listening, I know it must suck to hear, especially coming from a Patriots fan, but hey, like I said at the beginning, we tell you facts. That is not arguable. So yeah, any last kind of things you want to touch on before we sign off here?
No, I think this is just. I think there's been a clear winner in both trades, and just the other party, I not really totally seeing what they're trying to do with it. But that's all I have about it. You want to move on to our little final topic?
Yeah. So guys, we're going to be covering kind of like the latest issues, things going around in the NFL, break those things down. And then we're going to have kind of like a fun topic at the end of each segment. So maybe kind of a little bit of a debate, something like that. So today's topic, we're actually going to talk about who do you think the top 5 quarterbacks will be in the NFL in 5 years? So 2022, week 1, who are going to be the best quarterbacks? Lennon, you want to start with yours? Start from number 5 and work your way down?
Yeah. Do you want me to go through my whole list, or do you want to do 5 and then do your 5?
Let's give me your 5, and I'll give you my 5, and then we'll compare. How about that?
All right. Sounds good. So at number 5, I got Jameis Winston. I think is the 5th best. I think he's got all the talent. He's in a great place. He's got Mike Evans around him, which would be awesome. Deshaun Jackson this year, I think that would be great too. But I do think he needs to cut down on those interceptions. I mean, he's 3% of his passes are interceptions right now. That's just way too high, and it's been his Achilles heel throughout his collegiate and professional career. So then at 4, I got Dak, and I think I know you're listening to ESPN. They'll tell you Dak will be number 1. He'll already be in the Hall of Fame in 5 years. We just got to put things into perspective. Dak Prescott, from an offensive standpoint, was put into the greatest situation a rookie could ever be put in as last year. He was playing behind the best offensive line we've seen in over 20 years. He had an incredible running game, the league's best running game, league's leading rusher in Ezekiel Elliott, who can do it all as a great blocker, one of the most complete backs we've ever seen come out of college in a decade. He had an extremely reliable tight end in Jason Witten. He had a true number 1 in Dez. He had a slot. He had a guy to take the top off. He had everything he needed to play quarterback. He just needed to learn it. And I think as we know, had an amazing year, but I do think his situation had to do a lot with that, and I don't know if he really is. I do think there are other quarterbacks who are going to be better. As 3, I have Russell Wilson, and I was tempted to put Russell Wilson number 1, and the only reason I don't is because I think he is going to be a victim of the Seahawks mentality that they can put anyone at offensive line, and the wizard Tom Cable is going to teach him how to play offensive line. Like, no, that's not going to happen. He's going to get beat up, and mobility is a huge part of his game. I'm afraid he's going to start losing it because he's just not going to be healthy. And number 2, I got Marcus Mariota. I mean, I said earlier I'm a Ducks fan, so I know some of you may be saying I'm biased and such, but Mariota, I believe, has proven so much, and he's grown so much over the last 2 years. I mean, he's 33 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in the red zone. That's insane accuracy and timing and good decision making there. He also, and that's been throwing to nothing. I mean, his best receiver the last 2 years has been Delaney Walker, and the second best has either been Kendall Wright or Rashard Matthews. I mean, he has had no weapons, and he's already got a very good offensive line. He's got 2 of the best bookend tackles in the league. Very strong running game, and he's finally got the weapons. He's got Eric Decker, Corey Davis, Taywan Taylor, Rashard Matthews, KJ Sharp. He's finally got weapons to actually throw the ball to. So I think we're going to see a huge jump in Mariota this year. And finally, at number 1, I got Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is a younger, not as good. I'm not trying to say as good, but he plays the game, to me, extremely similar to Aaron Rodgers. He's got cannon of an arm, make every throw, make throws that you're like, how did he do that? Can move, throw and run very well. He's got Amari Cooper he's going to throw to for his entire career, which is awesome. I think he's definitely going to be the number 1 quarterback in 5 years. What about your list, Elad?
Interesting list, my friend. So, we have 3 of the same guys on there. At number 5, I got Carson Wentz. I really like the guy. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he develops this year because, like we touched on earlier, he hasn't had a number 1 receiver to work with, like a true number 1. Now you throw in Alshon Jeffrey in the mix, and I mean we're talking about a guy who I think could put up, have like a 25, 30 touchdown season in his sophomore year. And that's, he's got other weapons. He's got Zach Ertz. He's got, Sproles in the backfield, Matthews. And LeGarrette Blount to take off some pressure off him, too. He can grind out those short yards, keep himself on the field. And then you got Josh Huff, Nelson Aguilar. Those guys are great working in the slot.
Huff's in Tampa now, so.
Oh, Huff's been at Tampa? Let me make a note of that.
He's got Torrey Smith, though, and that's good. Take the top off, and he's got the arm to throw that ball.
I like Aguilar, though. I think he's really good, and I think he already has like a good rapport with him. So I think it'll be interesting to see how those 2 develop. Both very young. I like Wentz. I mean, he's a good pocket passer. He's mobile to bigger guy. He can, if need be, he can take the hits. So I think he's really gonna step up this year in the Eagles' offense. At number 4, I think it's hard to take this guy out of the conversation, but I got Cam Newton. Like I still like the guy. He had an MVP season a couple years ago. Obviously, last year was a down year for the whole team, not just him. Obviously, we look at Cam Newton first when we look at the team's record because the offense wasn't that good, and he threw how many picks did he throw? I think he threw like 14 interceptions last season. Yeah, he had 19 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I mean, that's not a good ratio, especially coming off an MVP year. But I feel like he's got too much talent. Like he's gonna be in that conversation. He's one of the poster boys for the NFL. The only question for him is, can he be a consistent passer? Can he show that he can stand in the pocket and throw the ball? He's got weapons coming back. He's got Kelvin Benjamin coming back. Although not sure like how good a shape he's in. He has weight problems, but he's got this arguably like in my eyes, he's got the second best tight end in football. Greg Olsen, great player. I mean, obviously he's going to be there for a few more years at least. Then you add Christian McCaffrey, who I think is going to help a lot. Curtis Samuel, those guys are really going to help him out. And then Funchess, still, is this going to be Funch's second or third year?
This will be his third year.
His third year. So I think
Hmm.
this year is the finally the year he breaks out. I mean, he's got like 6'6" frame. Like this guy should be performing. Um, I think Newton's got the weapons around him. He's always going to have the other side. The defense was down last year, but I think as long as Kuechly's there, that defense is going to step up and give him the support that Cam Newton will stay in that top five conversation. And I just think he's got too much talent to be not considered for this. Three, I got
Well,
Marcus
actually,
Mariota.
I got to correct myself real quick. It'll actually be Punch's second year, and Kelvin's. Wait, no, turn it on again. Calvin's fourth year, Punch's third year. Never mind, had it right. Sorry.
Doesn't matter. It's relevant. I got Mariota at three. So you had
Hmm.
him at two, and I have him at three. And I I think he's got arguably the most. He's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL, and I I will say he's a balanced quarterback, but I say that because he is a very good thrower and a very good runner. He's not just kind of like a half-ass passer and a half-ass runner. He can do both really well. And
Hmm.
especially now that the Titans are finally giving him weapons, like I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. I mean, in years past, I mean, Delaney Walker and maybe who else? Yeah, Rashard Matthews.
Hmm.
I
Only
mean,
1 year last year.
yeah, exactly. I mean, those are like the best weapons he's had. And so now you add Eric Decker, Corey Davis, who I think is going to be awesome. Especially with the smash mouth exotic run game that they have with DeMarco and Derrick Henry. That's still going to, play in his favor. Last season, he threw 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and he was one of the hottest quarterbacks in the latter half of the year. I think you'd agree. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, he was just firing on all cylinders, and we saw. I mean, they made a playoff run. I mean, they almost made the playoffs, and I feel like, in a weekend AFC South, there's no clear cut winner. Obviously, it's going to be the Texans until somebody dethrones them. But I think this is a year where they can do it because I think Mariota finally has the weapons given to him that he can actually succeed. And I like to think about it as like interestingly enough, I'll just spoiler alert. I did not have Dak Prescott on my list. But what I think
Hmm.
about is, could you imagine if Marcus Mariota was on that Cowboys team?
Hmm.
I I think that team makes it to the Super Bowl, to be honest, because the only thing that they were missing is really Dak couldn't really step up when the game was put on his shoulders. But I think Mariota in that situation would have stepped up, given how good and accurate of a passer he is and how calm and poised he always is. I think it's a totally different situation. Now you put Dak in Marcus's shoes, and I think that's totally different. You don't have necessarily like the great old line that he has to work with, and he'll be out there running for his life, I think, and wouldn't really have much time to develop. Doesn't have that number one star receiver that he can rely on, so I think that Mariota is really on his way to becoming one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. And then at two, I have Russell Wilson. Honestly, I probably would have had him at number one, but my concern was injuries as well. The Seahawks are pretty loose with him. He is becoming more of a pocket passer, in his defense, and he's a good passer. He is undersized, but he does make the throws. I mean, we saw. I mean, he carved up New England last year in that Week 10 game. I mean, they couldn't do anything about him, and then the problem is containing him, and no one can really do that. No one's really had success containing him. I think as long as he's mobile and stays healthy, like he's still going to be up there. He's a very smart player, very humble. Has no off the field issues. Like, I think he's going to be perfectly fine. And then, interestingly enough, we have the same number one, Derek Carr, for all the reasons you already mentioned. I mean, Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree. You got beast mode coming back, so that's going to be interesting to see how that helps the offense. I mean, that could be one of the best offenses in the NFL this year. You have the
Hmm.
Falcons, Steelers, Patriots, and then I think you throw the Raiders into that
I think you
mix.
throw the Redskins in too, but we'll talk about that in a couple weeks.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as beast mode coming back, that's really going to take a lot of
Hmm.
pressure off of Derek Carr because haven't necessarily had a great running game. I mean, I know Latavius Murray now he's at Minnesota. I mean, he's a good back, but he's not Marshawn Lynch. He's not going to require specific game planning for him. And so I really think this season, I think Derek Carr is really going to start separating himself and start slowly making progress and creeping into that like next level tier, like below the elite quarterbacks. My only question with Derek Carr is he does play like Aaron Rodgers. So, like Aaron Rodgers, he can potentially take some hits, similar to Russell Wilson. Can he stay healthy? I know he's had some problems with his hands or his fingers and his wrist, I think. So, my question is just like durability. Can he stay healthy? Obviously, he missed the playoff games last year. McGloin had to step in because of injury, but I really think for some time to come, like he's gonna be the quarterback that really bosses that AFC West.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything slow about it. I think at the end of this year, he's going to be considered elite. I think he's going to jump up probably to number 4 quarterback, maybe number 3 if Tom Brady retires. But I think he'll jump up to number 4. And we'll talk about some couple notable omissions that we have. Neither of us have Aaron Rodgers. I think at 38, Aaron Rodgers' game is so predicated on his physical ability. I mean, he's got not very good footwork, and he just swings it with his arm, and he makes every throw. That's what it's about moving around, getting outside the pocket. Very similar to Russell Wilson and Derek Carr. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that physically anymore at 38. I also don't know. To me, he doesn't have that same. I'm not as sure as Brady. Like Brady's talking about playing to 45 or something, and I'm not sure Aaron Rodgers will want to play when he's 38. I have a feeling he's more of a guy who's going to leave it when he's at the top. What do you think?
Yeah, I would.
Why would you leave him off?
I left him off because his game. We watch the Packers. They never have just a 1-2-3 drop back, hit the guy in stride kind of play. It's literally the offensive line breaking down and Aaron Rodgers running for his life and doing what he does. He makes miracles happen. I feel like if he was in a system like New England, where he was a pocket passer, the system was much more stable, then yeah, that would add a couple years onto his career. But with the way he plays, it's a very high risk, high reward kind of game. A lot of mobility. Does take some shots. He's had that calf problem for a few years now. I don't know if he can keep that up. I don't think everyone ages like Tom Brady. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is keeping, tabs on his body like Brady is, and is he really putting in the work outside the field to ensure that he's going to play to that point? I don't know. And similar to Aaron Rodgers, I wanted to include Matt Ryan on the list, but because he's playing the best football in his career right now, but I don't know if he's he's 32, 33 years old right now. I don't know how long he's going to be able to do it. I really want to say that he will. I feel like he's in a better position than Aaron Rodgers to have an elongated career. I feel like he could age well like Brady, depending on how he takes care of his body and, what he's doing to prepare. But I don't know. Tom Brady's he's an anomaly. I mean, let's just face it. The way he's been aging, literally last season, he was throwing the ball harder than I've ever seen him throw in his career, and that doesn't happen. So,
I mean, we just have to see how different he is, compare and contrast that to Peyton Manning, who was a year younger in the Super Bowl the year before, and I mean, he couldn't throw the ball 30 yards. It's just, Tom Brady's not normal when it comes to how he's aged. But
in Peyton Manning's defense, he did have the neck surgeries and those kinds of problems, which Brady has luckily been able to avoid. So I think that played a little factor into it, losing the zip that he used to have. But yeah, I mean, the guys that I was really deciding. You put Winston in your list, and I probably had him at 6, and then with all the things besides just pure passing. Aaron Rodgers and Matt Ryan are 2 guys that I kind of left off just because of their age. I don't feel comfortable sitting here and saying that they're going to be able to perform at their peak like Tom Brady at age 38. So that's the only reason I left those guys off.
Yeah, I think for Matt Ryan, it's the thing that has taken his game to the next level is running these boot actions. uh, getting outside the pocket, throwing on the move. In the pocket, he's pretty good. I mean, he's a very good quarterback. But what made him elite was introducing the boot action, the rollouts, the movement, throwing on the run, and that's what put him in the elite category this year, and was why he won the MVP. I just don't think he'll be able to do that at 37. So that'll drop him back down. If he's still playing, he'll definitely still be top 10. As far as, and one other one, probably more notable, we omitted, is Andrew Luck. I am deeply concerned about Andrew Luck's health. I mean, he's not playing week 1 this year. I don't know when he's going to play. We talk about guys getting hit. Andrew Luck has gotten murdered. He's been in the NFL. The Colts have taken no real steps to protect him. So I'm deeply concerned about his health. And that's the reason I keep him out. I think he's got all the talent. He's probably the most talented of all of these quarterbacks, but I'm just so concerned about his health that I don't think he'll be able to play at the level that we think. He's also got an interception problem as well.
Yes.
Not as bad as Jameis's, but he's got an interception problem. I think that's a combination of he is so talented and he thinks he can make these throws, and also he knows he can't hold on the ball because he's about to get smacked. So I think he's trying to get it out of his hands at times. So that's why I left him out.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even consider Andrew Luck purely for the fact because he cannot stay healthy, and just the way he plays is a little reckless to me. And like you said, the Colts every single year, like, they don't take any measures to like shore up that own line. I mean, I know they drafted Kelly from Alabama, but like, he's just getting demolished. And then, you know, I feel like he's put in a situation where their defense isn't good either, so they're playing from behind a lot. And so he feels like he has to, you know, take over the game and try to like make some things happen, because if he doesn't, then nothing will happen. And so that's when the interception problems come and the fumbles and the turnover issues. I really, like I said, I wasn't really even thinking about him just purely for the fact that I don't know how healthy he's ever going to be. And so I didn't think it was really worth warranting a vote on my top 5.
So then I guess now we'll talk about where we differ. So I like Carson Wentz. I do like him a lot. He had a great start of the year. Everyone was, people thought he was going to be Dak before Dak. Like, they thought he was the one who was going to have the great rookie year. Then he started to slow down a bit. Didn't play well near the end of the year. So I like him. I think he's definitely got a future. I'm just worried. I think he'll do a lot better this year with more weapons, real weapons. One concern I have is that O-line is old. Jason Peters is very old. They're going to start retiring here soon, and that means they're going to have to start readdressing the line over the next couple of years. I don't know if he'll ever. I think he'll ever really make that jump into like the top 5 elite category. So I think that's why I keep him out. I think he'll definitely be top 10 quarterbacks in the league, but I don't know if he'll ever make that jump for me. And then Cam, I think Cam had one great, amazing year that was highly predicated off him running the ball and play action, and teams putting 8 men in the box to stop him from running because he ran over everyone and they had an extra blocker, and he just threw it deep on these routes with these fast receivers. I just don't. His mechanics are terrible. He gets the crap beaten out of him. I mean, he doesn't really get protected because he's 6'6", 250, and it's like, I mean, that guy can care for himself. Take care of himself. He's bigger than almost everyone tackling him. I think where a lot of people put too much stock in that one year. I don't know. I don't think he can keep it up. He never has. I think he'll be solid, a solid quarterback, but I don't think he'll be elite. And I think he's going to start getting hurt again more. And that's the reason I left him out. I think he'll be on the lower end of 10, probably. Personally, I like where Aaron Rodgers and Matt Ryan. I don't know, possibly Matt Ryan will be. I definitely like where Carson Wentz will be, and I also think guys are going to be rookies next year. I like the future Sam Darnold has. He reminds me a lot of Brett Favre, but I'll talk about that another time. I think they will jump Cam Newton too eventually, so that's why I left them out.
Now, it is interesting. I did want to bring up, we didn't talk about any of the rookies this season. So we got Trubisky in Chicago. We got Deshaun Watson at Houston. And then we got Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. And all three of those guys had really good outings on their first preseason game. And then another guy, didn't talk about Deshaun Kaiser. He looked really good for the Browns. So all four of these guys were looking really good in their first start. Any comments about that?
Well, I do think you got to realize they were playing against a bunch of 2s and 3s. So I don't think they really experienced true football. I like Deshaun. I like Deshaun and Deshaun. I like Kaiser and Watson the best. Couldn't figure out how to say his first name. What the difference was, I don't know. Trubisky reminds me too much of Bortles. Mahomes, I think he's uber talented. I just think, who knows what the quarterback whisperer will do with him. I'm just not ready to project him in my top 5, but not seeing him do anything on the NFL level. So that's like, I do think they definitely had very good openings. I watched every pass of Watson. He did miss some passes that he needs to make. He couldn't hit the seam pass to save his life, and he was overthrowing it, and that's going to get intercepted against a good middle high safety. So I think he's got interception problems as we've seen. It's just I don't think any of these guys. It's hard to project without seeing them in a real NFL game for me, and I don't know if any of them will make that jump to elite. I like the next crop a little bit better even.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, like I said, I'm not putting much stock into that preseason, the number 1 preseason game. I know a lot of guys say it's, a very slowed down version of like the actual game speed that you see week 1 of the regular season. But it is good to see, though, that they were having success. At least they weren't going out there and making some like really errant decisions. I mean, I watched the Houston versus Carolina game, and Deshaun did seem very poised in the pocket. In the red zone, even when things weren't there, he was throwing the ball away. He wasn't making stupid decisions like he did at Clemson, where he was forcing the ball. So I feel like they're all taking good steps initially. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out because, like I said, a lot of stock has been put into next year's class, and this class is kind of like a tier below in many people's eyes. So I'm interested to see how these guys respond, especially if given the chance to start. Like probably 3 of the 4 will be. So we'll see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
go ahead.
It'll be interesting. Again, it's just hard to project without seeing NFL games. Yeah. So we want to talk about our little differences with Jameis, Dak, and you want to talk about Jameis and Dak? You left them off.
I mean, like I said, Jameis was probably like my number 6. Like I was deciding between him and Wentz, really. So I agree with everything you said. Like I would have had no problem putting him in there. I agree with you there. Like I said, my only problem with Dak is he was given the greatest scenario ever for a rookie quarterback, and he succeeded. More power to him. Like he played well. He did what he had to do. He did more than what he had to do, honestly. But can he repeat it now? Like we said, with Ezekiel Elliott not being there, with probably a slowed down running game, will he be able to put the game on his shoulders? And I'm just not sold yet because I just don't. He has a decent arm, but I still haven't seen anything that's really wowed me about it.
Yeah, these first 6 games will be the real test for Dak. Last year really wasn't it. These first 6 games will be without Zeke out there. And then I think, bold prediction, I think Jameis this year has a very real shot at leading the league in passing. I think they're going to throw it a ton. They're going to throw it deep. I think Mike Evans may lead the league in receiving. I that is my early favorite to be. As long as the Saints finally start being logical and don't throw the ball 70 times a game, I think Jameis will probably lead the league in passing this year.
That's not a bad prediction. I mean, you always gotta put Breeze up there because that's what they do.
Yeah,
Uh, Especially
hopefully,
now they added Ted Ginn, and so now they got another deep threat that
yeah.
Breeze can just bomb it out to to replace Cooks. But that'll be interesting to see. So any last comments before we sign off on this segment?
No, I have nothing about this one. I just guess we'll talk about next time. Next time we'll be talking about Madden ratings. I know a lot of people got frustrated with these. A lot of them don't make any sense, and there's definitely favoritism to
Yeah, absolutely.
certain teams. So
Absolutely.
we'll cover that.
Yeah, so next time it's going to be a little bit more fun episode. We're kind of, waiting out the preseason, drawing closer to the start of the NFL and the college football season, and that's when we'll get into more like in-depth the meat of the season. And we'll probably do some more like analytics and stuff like that. We'll break down some film for you guys and talk about that sort of stuff that I know a lot of you diehards like to talk about. But yeah, so Madden comes out August 25th. A lot of people have been pretty infuriated by some of the ratings that the wonderful people at EA Sports have given some of the players, and so we'll talk about that. It'll be a lot more fun segment. You guys can get involved in it. You guys can talk about it in the comments. So yeah, so I think we're gonna sign off here. Yeah, guys, if you enjoy it, tell your friends about it. Make sure to give us a like, subscribe, comment. If you agree with us about the Ezekiel Elliott situation, how that's going to impact the Cowboys. Who do you think the big winners were of the Rams, Eagles, Bills trade, the pseudo three-way trade? And then, do you think Aguayo should have got cut? I think that's the main topic we talked about today.
Yeah, that's the big one. We want to hear that.
That's the big one. We want to hear your comments on that. And then put your list of top 5 quarterbacks. Who do you think they're going to be in 2022, Week 1, regular season? Who do you think are going to be the top 5 quarterbacks leading the NFL? So I'm A-Lad.
I'm winning. We'll see you next time.